So welcome to CloudTimes CEO series. My name is Tantow. We're at Piston Cloud today in sunny San Francisco.
Well, sunny today.
Sunny today, but it looks beautiful here, residential area. And I'm with Josh McKenty, CEO of Piston Cloud. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about Piston Cloud. Give us some brief intro and why you founded the company as well.
Sure. So if you've heard of OpenStack, it's kind of the hottest thing in cloud these days. It's an open source project for building cloud environments, whether public for service providers or private. And it came out of a collaboration between my team at NASA and the Rackspace team, and it launched in May of 2010.
Okay.
So
at NASA, or that's when you already founded the company?
No, sorry. The OpenStack launched in the
yeah.
summer of 2010. So Piston Cloud is essentially the Red Hat of OpenStack, if you want to think of it that way. We deliver an enterprise-grade software solution that's built on top of OpenStack and takes care of security, high availability, reliability, and provides enterprise support and a subscription update service.
Okay.
And so really, when OpenStack launched, we were really excited about the possibility of having one cloud platform that could address the needs of both private and public clouds, in the same way that the internet is one networking platform that addresses the needs of both private and public networks, and it allowed this amazingly powerful thing to unfold. But in the first couple of years of OpenStack, most of the focus and most of the attention went into the public cloud providers, the service providers that got involved, HP and Dell and AT&T. And so we wanted to make sure that we balanced that out with delivering an enterprise-grade version of OpenStack.
Right. Interesting. And what role did actually NASA play in that? Did they support you out of that? Because you worked at NASA, and I think some of your co-founders as well, right?
Yes, that's true. Gretchen Curtis and myself were both on the NASA Nebula team.
Yeah.
NASA Nebula was where we developed the Nova components of OpenStack. So the compute, the networking, and the block storage services, as well as the dashboard, all came out of the NASA side. Rackspace produced a very scalable object storage and called Swift, and then also drove forward the community and the branding around the OpenStack effort.
Okay. And you founded Piston Cloud then last year in 2011, right?
Last January, we hit the ground running. Both Gretchen and I and Christopher McGowan, who came over from Rackspace, started fundraising, raised some seed money in March, raised a proper Series A in June, announced the company in
True
September.
Ventures, no?
True and Hummer Winblatt, Divergent, and a couple of other seed investors.
Yeah, pretty good, which are pretty active in cloud, actually.
Yeah, they're keeping their hand in.
Yeah.
Launched the company, launched a beta of the product in November, and then the GA of Piston Enterprise OS in January of this year.
Okay. So let's go a little bit more deeper into OpenStack and security issues as well.
Sure.
So can you explain which security issues you see addressed in OpenStack and which are actually still open and which are not addressed in OpenStack?
Sure. I actually gave a talk on this subject called OpenStack and Security in London at the kickoff of the OpenStack EMEA user group. So there's about 300 people in a venue that only held 200 people, so it's a little squished. And OpenStack is commonly mistaken as a product. It's not a product, it's a framework. It's a collection of components that can be deployed together. The challenge with any framework is that really security is not part of a framework, it's part of a product. So typically I think of security in the context of government security, which is where I really, let's say I thought I understood security before I worked at NASA, but I actually realized I didn't until after I worked at NASA. Governments define security using what's called FIPS 199, so integrity, making sure the data hasn't been tampered with. Confidentiality, making sure it's secret if it was supposed to be secret, and availability. And so for Piston Cloud, we think of the availability of your systems as being part of the security. If your systems are down, the integrity of your system is not being upheld. So in that sense, we deal with the insider threat in terms of limiting the number of folks who have credentials to any part of your cloud infrastructure. We deal with what's called defense in depth, which is architecting a deployed product where no component trusts any other component more than they absolutely have to. We address audit and regulatory compliance, so making sure that you can make things secure, you can prove that they're secure, and you can provide the evidence saying that you did the things that you said you were going to do. So in most regulated environments, banks, hospitals, governments, they not only need secure IT systems, but they need to be able to support a continuous audit of those IT systems as well.
But which security lacks do you see as maybe something you're gonna take on now as well, or later, or what's coming up, or
Sure.
do you see them all addressed?
Well, let me put it a different way. For any X number of lines of code, you're going to have Y number of bugs. Right? This is the nature of software engineering. You have 1,000 lines of code, you probably have a couple of bugs in there. The larger the number of lines of code in your IT environment, so the more packages, the more pieces of software running, the more potential security holes you have. Not actual ones necessarily, not ones anyone knows about, but they're there, they're latent. And so what we really focused on to start with was we built a custom Linux distribution as part of Piston Enterprise OS that is, it's not magically different from another Linux distribution, it's just as small as possible. There's almost nothing in it. The only things that are in it are what's required to run OpenStack. It's not intended to be a Linux environment where you would install software. It's not intended to be an environment where administrators would even log in. You think of this more as being just a thin, it's a bare metal cloud, if you like. Instead of having a bare metal hypervisor, you actually have a bare metal cloud OS. So that approach, along with the way that we support the installation of a cloud environment from a single switch or a single server in the top of rack broadcast across hundreds of servers, we've limited the number of people that need to be involved. We've limited the number of insiders that potentially either accidentally or on purpose could compromise those systems. We've limited the number of times you've had to generate credentials and store credentials. Okay. So from the moment your cloud is born, it's connected to your central authentication servers in your enterprise, whether that's Active Directory or it's LDAP or whatever. So we take the insider threat really seriously because it's, even today, even after 10 years of trying to address it, it's still almost half of all successful IT breaches in the enterprise are from insiders. So we look at that. We look at regulatory compliance as something that we've taken a unique approach to. We've built the industry's first implementation of the cloud audit standard that supports these kinds of audit and regulatory compliance controls. And we've provided an update service that's really unique as well. And I think the challenge for a lot of enterprises is that you know if you don't update very often, you're not very secure. Right? You know that patching is critical to maintaining a high level of security. But if you have to schedule downtime in order to perform updates, you're not going to do it as often as you really should. So what we were able to do is to develop a totally different approach for updating Piston Enterprise OS, where we can update your entire cloud environment without turning anything off, ever. In other words, none of your virtual machines have to be turned off, none of your storage is unavailable. And so we can do a rolling upgrade of every single server in your cloud, whether that's 5 servers or 100 servers or 1,000 servers, automatically moving the running workloads from one server to another without downtime. Which means there's no barrier for a cloud administrator to update as often as an update is available.
Okay, and this is also you launched PentOS, right? Is that how the product's called? Especially
Piston Enterprise OS is PentOS, the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly, and you launched it. I don't know if you launched it beta or actually commercial market end of last year. Is that correct?
So we launched a developer preview last November. Okay. And then we launched a generally available V1.0 in January of this year, end of January. So, and that's been going really well. it's given us. I'd say the biggest thing we've learned out of having something generally available is that every enterprise has unique integration work that still needs to be done. You know, they have their billing or accounting systems, and they want their cloud integrated with that. They have legacy hardware they would like to see included into the cloud environment. There's always some additional services work that has to go along with a new deployment. So that's been a lesson for us. Certainly, we didn't really discover that during the beta.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, interesting. Where do you see some of the industry, potentially some of your competitors going as well? For example, Cloud.com was acquired by Citrix. Do you see them as a competitor? If yes, in which way? Or are you actually completely separate from them?
OpenStack bears a tremendous resemblance to Linux at a particular point in history, in the sense that VMware is the Microsoft of the certainly the virtualization space, and now also really the private cloud marketplace, and they're trying to get into public cloud. If you see VMware as being Microsoft, OpenStack is Linux. And there's 150, 160 different companies involved there.
Many similarities, yeah.
Cloud.com and to a certain extent Eucalyptus are kind of like the FreeBSD and OpenBSDs. So they're open source. They don't really have the same open source community of contributors that OpenStack has, and they've allied themselves in odd ways. So, you know, Eucalyptus has clearly allied themselves with Amazon, a big announcement yesterday. Amazon doesn't have an open standard, and that partnership was good for Eucalyptus because it's taken away the threat of a lawsuit. That threat of a lawsuit over the AWS APIs is part of why there's no ecosystem around them. Cloud.com is kind of in the FreeBSD sort of way of being in no man's land, where they had committed to transforming themselves into OpenStack, which is why Citrix bought them. But from a technology standpoint, that doesn't make a lot of sense. The technologies are not really compatible.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like the HP personal computer division. They've been announced that they're going to be end of life, but in the meantime, you can still buy them. So nobody really knows what that means. So no, I don't see those as really our primary competitors. OpenStack as a whole competes with VMware. We certainly compete with VMware. That's who we run into in the market. And I mean, even a lot of the other OpenStack companies, Rackspace and Cloud Scaling, are really focused on the service provider market. They're focused on the big public clouds. I think it was Rachel Chalmers of 451 Group said, you know, everyone wanted something like Piston to exist, but nobody wanted to have to build it. Well, that is sort of us. The difficult, mostly boring work of high availability systems, of reliability engineering, of security patches and updates, is something that takes a great open source framework and makes an enterprise grade product out of it. That's basically what we do.
Excellent. So what's next?
World domination.
Huh?
World domination.
Yeah, world
Did you see our world domination cake?
No.
It was in Read Write Web. We had 1% of world domination achieved.
Okay. Oh, very good.
No, we have the OpenStack Summit and Conference comes up next month.
Yeah.
So we'll have a booth there. We're getting some talks.
Any announcements?
A few announcements coming out.
Okay.
We certainly are growing our partner ecosystem. I mean, we've announced, you know, the Intel partnership was a big deal for us. Partnerships with RightScale and Puppet Labs and Opscode were big announcements for us. We have some more of those types of things. Basically, you know, I talk about that integration work that every customer needs. That is not where we want to grow our business. And then we're always adding things to OpenStack itself and to our product. And so I think you can look for some exciting announcement from us in the next couple of months.
Very good.
Both
very
of
good.
those regards.
Are you hiring?
We're always hiring.
Who are you going to hire?
Well, we announced. Can I announce that we have a new director of sales coming on board?
We always like announcements.
Yeah, sure. Well, I might as well. No, I'm pretty sure that's okay. And so we have a new director of sales starting early in April.
Okay.
We have a new engineer starting April 2nd. It was on Twitter, but Josh Kearney, who's one of the core contributors to OpenStack and up until recently was at Rackspace, has come on board our team.
Okay.
So
who are you looking for? Are you hiring on the engineering side or commercial sales?
Yes, both, all of the above.
Okay.
We're always hiring. We're always hiring the best and brightest engineers. We're always hiring on the sales force. What else? Gretchen would love to have another 3 or 4 people in the marketing group, but I don't know if folks have seen the marketing materials we produce. The bar is pretty high. So, hiring is good.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting us.
Yeah. Have a good day.